Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Sharina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best, cutting edge, most important, useful, interesting, and advanced and exciting, all the brain body tools so you could take better control of your thoughts, of your actions, of your emotions, and yes, and most importantly, yes, guys, your actions. So you could shape your life, yourself, your experience in the most meaningful, fulfilling way. What are we thinking this Monday? Folks, after this session of self-reflection, continuing on our topic of Friday about how we get stuck in the same patterns and how self-reflection is a practice that will help us get unstuck and grow instead. Right? Continuing on that conversation. So after I did my self-reflection on June 1st, I realized that my biggest problem is doing less. It's doing less of stuff, but doing stuff that matters better. And the only way to do things better is to dedicate it more time, more mind space, more energy, more resources. And we cannot do that when we are rushed from one to-do item on our to-do list to another. Mastery and extraordinary, non-ordinary results and achievements, they do not come from rushing. They are actually based on really good journalism and research that I'm learning through books. Great things are a result of unrushed projects that, from the perspective of not modern days, I think that's actually going to go into the past, but previous decades and years and centuries of productivity, what was considered to be productive is when you try to squeeze in as many items on your calendar as possible and just do, right? That's where actually what time management is all about, how to do more of things. Whereas modern productivity, based on research that actually goes back into history, into centuries of history of discoveries in math and physics and all the fields, and the best writers and philosophers, they never rushed. They never tried to squeeze in as many appointments and things as possible on their to-do list. They try to create more time, to remove stuff. They try to subtract. So self-reflection led me to a place of truly landing on this page in my life where I like, Angela, if you want to get to the next level, if you want to grow, if you want to deliver something exceptional, then you got to do less. You got to look at your schedule and stop thinking, how can I add more? How can I squeeze in more things? And instead think, and ask yourself, how can I do less? What if there was one thing I would focus on this week? Would that thing be? And how can I remove as much stuff that doesn't really matter based on my experience, based on where I see myself going? How can I remove more of that stuff? And it's hard, guys, especially if you are a type A personality who wants to achieve and do a lot. It's going to be super hard for you. It's like betraying your own self, signing up to be lazy. But trust yourself. You're not going to be lazy. You're already A type. Your brain will make you do things. And your challenge is, just like it's mine, is to remove stuff that is not essentially you. Kevin Kelly has this concept. If you don't know who Kevin Kelly is, too long to explain, just Google him. Kevin Kelly and 1000 True Fans has this concept. Trying to do everything, but try to do what only you can do. And that's going to be an intersection of, this concept of Ikigai, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can make money of. So that's going to be the intersection. And you also not going to just land on it. It's actually going to be a hard process of discovering what it is only you can do, and you can do it super well. And when you figure that out, when you discover that, and that again goes back to self-reflection and doing the Ikigai exercise and maybe discovering your why exercises, it's going to come through work. And also you have to try a lot of things. A lot of people ask me, Angela, how do you know what you want to do? And you seem to be so clear on your life's vision, your life's mission, no matter the hardships, etc. And that's because I tried like at least 10 different professions, and I'm still trying all the different projects and pivots and quitting one thing over another. That's a process. You're not going to land on it in one day. And that's why, self-reflection is also that important. But the point of today, guys, look at your schedule. Even if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day it is, and ask yourself, not how I can do more, everything that I can think of, but how can I do less? How can I do what only I can do? How can I subtract, not add? And it's not coincidence that for the past few weeks and maybe even months, I've been drawn to resources that teach you how to do less and how to do better because of that. So there is a great book that I just finished, Subtract. Let me read you the subtitle actually. Subtract, the Untapped Science of Less by Leidy Klotz. Slow Productivity, the Lost Art of Accomplishment Without Burnout by Cal Newport. There is a podcast that just came out on Hidden Brain podcast, an episode that just came out, Innovation 2.0, Do Less, where the podcast host interviews the author of the book Subtract, the Untapped Science of Less. And there is fascinating research, and those guys, Cal Newport, Leidy Klotz, scientists, journalists, did really great work to bring real life examples that again go back to like centuries back, showing how people who achieved great results like Isaac Newton and the theory of, I believe, gravity, right? Not that great with physics, but all this great that we admire, again, going back centuries in history, they were actually, from the perspective of modern time management, very inefficient. They did not try to squeeze in everything and optimize everything in a sense that optimize things that should not be done in the first place. They created a lot of time and tried to eliminate as many of other commitments as possible so they can dedicate as much as possible of their mind space to that unique thing, that idea, that project, that they felt like was the representation of their true self, of their core self. So what am I thinking about this Monday? How can I do less? What can I subtract? And if I could focus on just one thing this week, then what would that be? What is my priority, not priorities? What is the focus? So then I can unrushed dedicate as much time, as much of me to that as possible. And I also listened to this beautiful podcast on Maria Shankar, I believe that's the author, A Slight Change of Plans, if you're curious, with Brené Brown, there to lead and Atlas of the Heart. And there are so many great books that I've read by her. And yeah, Brené Brown, she is an expert, although I don't think she likes the word expert, but she writes and speaks a lot about vulnerability and living life true to ourselves, our messy, imperfect human self. Anyhow, so I also listened to their podcast and how they were saying that focusing on your core elements doesn't mean just work. For me, I need to exercise. I need to sleep well. I need to have a lot of nature and a lot of alone time. And I cannot compromise on that. I need to learn a lot. I have a joke with people who know me and with myself. Don't feed me, give me something to learn. So subtracting and removing, which is not your essence, also means keeping the things that make you you. Just because somebody thinks that this is not essential, not core, you should skip it, you should just focus on the most important things, They're not you. They don't understand how to live your life fully. So your mind, your heart, your body function. So your essentials, don't skip those. Please do not. Just like Albert Einstein did his hourly walks, or like all the great actually writers and scientists have their like routines that for the rest of the world seems like this is just so silly, such a waste of time. But for them, that was what made them them. What is their core element? What is their essential? Without that, like with Maria Shankar on the podcast, she talks about how, yes, I would get more ratings, more listeners to my podcast if I produced more episodes, but then I wouldn't have time to do the research and the reading and the thinking to the same quality that produce the high quality work that I do in the first place. And that is so very important to understand, that the great thing that comes out of you comes from doing the things that are not optimized, but they are so essential to you. Or Rick Rubin, one of the most creative people, producers out there, he walks also for hours and just looks at things and ponders and has a lot of thinking and lazy time when he's just present and for the outside world seemingly doing nothing, being lazy, quote unquote. But that's what makes him the most creative person. And sometimes, he already has the result. You might think it's easy for Rick Rubin, but it's also true that in order to get there, you need to prioritize your core elements, your true essence. And without results, you still need to be able to say, this is me, and I'm not compromising on what's essential to me, whether that's our long walks or all the sleep you can get, or exercising first thing in the morning, like doing meditation, whatever that is, doing nature walks. What is you? Please keep that, because that will create the output, the result that the rest of the world will admire. And do not let anyone tell you what is essential and what you should skip, because they're not you. As simple as that. So that's my thinking on subtraction. Again, a few resources that I'm going to link in the show notes. Subtract, the Untapped Science of Less book by Leidy Klotz. Slow Productivity, The Lost Art of Accomplishing Without Burnout by Cal Newport. Innovation 2.0, Do Less, short episode on Hidden Brain podcast. By the way, Hidden Brain podcast, just such a gem. It's just so insight packed, and it's short, and there is no advertising. And yeah, anyhow, I'm going to be in the show notes. And a couple of things that I'd like to leave you with. First, a quote. Perfection is achieved when there is nothing left to take away. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the author of Little Prince. So perfection is achieved when there is nothing left to take away. And I'm not saying let's shoot for the perfection all the time, but realize that removing is what is the way to your greatness. And by the way, on removing text in things like newsletters or writing shorter copy, shorter emails, did you know that when you remove words from your text or from your sentences, you allow the working memory, like in your brain, there is this working memory that keeps stuff processing while you are in conversation or doing stuff. So the shorter the sentences are, the easier it is for the brain to process them, processing fluency. And that will make it more likely that people consume your stuff and do something with it. So that's a nerdy, neat insight that I think you can use to shorten your writing and your sentences. The next thing, to make the change easier, burn the boats, remove all the obstacles that are in the way. What it means is, don't ask yourself, why, what should I do to make a habit or this new action of doing less happen? Instead, ask yourself, why I haven't done this already, and start by subtracting. That's it for today, guys. Hope you found a ton of insights and you connected to this episode and you felt that it's very relevant to your life. I personally believe it's going to be relevant to every single human being, and it is relevant right now, as in our world there is more distraction, more stuff, more noise. So learning how to be picky and selective and how to do less, that's actually the skill that I believe every single human being will need to master. And the practices to get there are things like meditation, self-reflection, to do less, to have more time for the important things. Well, that's it for today. Have an awesome week ahead. Stay tuned for more insightful episodes this week. Please do share this episode with at least one person to talk about it, to share it, to teach each other, and to help this podcast reach more curious ears. Talk to you soon. Stay tuned, stay awesome, and till next time.